And former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
Hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome in. Happy Oregon Ducks Game Day to you live down at Autzen Stadium. Game number 8 of the 2024 season. Andy Dirt Johnson, Anthony Newman, Dusty Hara hanging out with you for the next 2.5 hours as Illinois is in town for a 12:30 kick. And boys, this feels like football weather, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, it does.
Was it football weather last night?
It was nice.
A little bit warmer?
I take that back. It started to rain at the beginning.
Okay.
And then it went away. And it was good. It's football weather. That's fall. We
got leaves turning, a little chill in the air.
Yeah.
I was more of a spittle on the west side where we had our game. It wasn't like an actual rain that we had.
Okay.
But it's getting chilly.
It is.
I don't think in like the Midwest they do their pregame show at 8 a.m. outside.
I don't think so.
In late October.
No, I don't think that's a thing.
I think they're going to start to freeze.
Change our plans now that we're a Big Ten team. We need to start operating like a Big Ten team.
Yes,
By the time you get to the middle of October, we got to move inside, man. It is chilly. Beautiful
move
morning.
The drill. Move the
drill. Move the cone. Over here, it is a beautiful morning. The sun's coming up. We're down here at Autzen. And, guys, we always do this. Let's turn the clock back, and then we'll start looking ahead to another top 20 team who is in town today, taking on the Ducks, and that is Illinois. Last Friday, you were there, Dusty. We'll start with you. We kind of went in. You know that Oregon's going to win. Purdue's not a very good football team. I think it's a question of what Oregon team shows up. What's the effort look like? How clean is the game? And considering what looked like a pretty tough environment, I think we got to give them 5 stars for the way that they played on a short week on the road Friday night at Purdue.
Yeah, it was an impressive performance, and that is including a second and third quarter lull, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lull there where, I talked to Coach Lanning at halftime of every game. That was the most upset I've seen Coach Lanning at a halftime, like talking to him on the way into the tunnel. Like, he was fired up because they throw an middle 8, right? That's where they want to dominate. They throw an interception. Purdue is driving the ball down the field. They end up missing a field goal in that second quarter where it was like, that was a completely one-dimensional team that refused to throw the ball in the first quarter. And, like, there was a little bit of, although we're up 21-0, like, we're not satisfied with where we are.
Yeah.
And I thought the way that they came out in the second half was very impressive. I mean, think of this, guys. That was the first road shutout since 1992.
Long time ago.
Quite literally, the best Oregon football teams in the history of the program have all come after that.
Yes,
right? Whether you're
yes.
talking the 94 Rose Bowl, 2001 Fiesta Bowl, 2 teams that went to national titles, multiple BCS and Rose Bowl, Fiesta Bowl teams. None of those teams were able to have a road shutout. And they played some pretty bad teams, right? Some of those Stanford teams or Washington State or Arizona State or Arizona teams that were really bad.
Colorado when they're at the bottom of the conference.
Absolutely. It's really hard to shut a team out.
Thank you.
And it is really, I always say it's hard to win football games. It's even harder to
shut
say
somebody up.
You will not score. And it doesn't matter if a team is completely one-dimensional or not. I thought that was a really complete performance by the defense, and it makes it even more impressive that they're still doing it without their best defensive player in Jordan Birch.
Yes. And I say this all the time. The game is made for the offense to win. The people up high want people to come to the game and see a 50-49 game.
Points are good.
That's what they. Yeah, that's what
right.
That's what they want to see.
Chicks dig the long ball,
yeah,
man.
if you're winning and you win at 7-3, everybody, that's a boring game.
Yeah.
For me, it's a great game because they only score 3 points on it. So if I'm shutting somebody out, they don't understand. And I even talked to our kids at Westland about that. We had 3 shutouts or 4. Excuse me, 3 or 4. I think 4.
Yeah, we'll count 4.
I'll go 4. I go 4. That is hard to do.
Yeah.
It's hard to and then if you're winning big, you're putting in the backups and the backups and the backups behind those backups. So they have to, play at that same level. And they're still shutting the team out. And that team sometimes has their starter still in the game.
Yep.
It is hard to do. So when Oregon goes and on the road and get a shutout on the road, wow. Okay, now if that's not your best game, the ceiling is high.
Yep.
It is.
To that point, right? 31-0, they're leading Michigan State at home, and Michigan State ends up getting 10 points at the end of it, right?
Yeah.
And Lanning after the game said, well, almost a complete game. right? That's the way they view it, is that when the backups come in, they should continue the job that the starters did.
Yes.
And I think that's what we saw at Purdue. Jay Harris gets a touchdown. Jeremiah McClellan gets a big catch on a third down to lead to that score for the Ducks and the backups offense. But I really do like what they did with that group, where they rotated out all of the skill guys, right? But they kept the offensive line in to get those guys some quality reps behind the first string offensive line.
Yes.
And then the defense comes in, and how do they finish it? Cam Alexander, a guy who we haven't seen a whole heck of a lot of, that came in with a lot of expectations, a lot of hype from UT San Antonio, gets a pick to seal it. I mean, that is the point right there, Anthony. The backups did their job too.
Well, I think on that note too, I'm glad you brought that up, Dusty, because they kept the offensive line in, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think Gabriel was in there for a drive.
For that drive.
A lot of the backup skill guys, just to have a veteran quarterback in there of let's let these guys operate in a system at a high level. And to not have that letdown, I thought was wildly impressive. And, I mean, you guys got to deal with this as high school coaches. Everybody that was a player had to deal with it. Not having that letdown after a big win. We've seen it multiple times this year in college football. Alabama beats Georgia. Next week they lose to Vanderbilt. Notre Dame gets a big win at Texas A&M. Next week they lose at home to Northern Illinois. Like, that letdown is a real thing. And Lanning's whole speech this week about who cares about being number one, it felt like the team took on that mentality of this isn't I got more food on my plate. I'm not done eating here, man.
I love that you called that a speech. He literally was asked a question about being number one, and he just goes, who cares?
Who cares? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man. It doesn't matter when you're number one in week 7. You want to be number one at the end of the season. And I just to have that in, tenacity right out of the gate, where you're not wrong, there was a lull in the second and third quarter, but to come out and score on your first 3 drives. Like, the only way that Purdue's going to hang in that game is if you give them hope in the first half. And you come out and you go touchdown, 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 you get stopped, it's 21-0. All right, you look up, you maybe fart around for a little bit there, but when it's 21-0, that ball game's over. They came out ready to go. I think that's a great sign for a team that is still hungry despite maybe one of the biggest wins in program history.
Well, yeah, and after that big win, I give all the credit to the coaching staff. And I understand this. Coaches coach, players play. Players have to execute on the field. But during the week, the coaches have to make sure the kids are right.
Yep.
After Ohio State, okay, we're going to Purdue. Okay, no, we can't have a letdown. Dan Lanning and his staff, they did an excellent job with the kids going, hey, we still had a lot of football left. We got to move forward. If we lose this next game, that Ohio State win means nothing. Mm-hmm. So that, to me, that's a coaching I think because the kids trust Dan Lanning, they believe what he's saying. They hear him. They listen to him. That is huge because during the week, he's giving those messages to the kids, understanding what's the situation. Everybody, do your 111. Let's do our jobs. Let's do what we need to do. And if we play the way we can play, no one can beat us. Yeah. We're beating ourselves when we lose football games. And that's what he told the kids during the week.
There's a difference between hearing what a coach is saying and believing what a coach is saying. The whole Ducks versus Ducks thing, you have got to have complete buy-in for that.
Yes, you do.
It's really easy to look at a Purdue team that's a one-win team, is struggling, they're one-dimensional, they just fired their offensive coordinator, their head coach is calling plays, you just overlook them, especially after an emotional win on a short week on the road. So you lose a day of practice because you're traveling. And you're going not just traveling, you're jumping 2 time zones, right? That's been the big thing is that, any team traveling 2 time zones or more in Big Ten play has been abysmal. Well, that was a statement by the Oregon team that they weren't going to overlook anybody, and they believe everything that Dan Lanning's saying. I mean, there's oftentimes, I roll my eyes at a lot of the stuff when you hear the coach speaking, you're like, okay, yeah, I get it. But when the players believe it and they buy into it,
that's a different story.
That becomes a very dangerous team.
Yes. And they showed that on Friday, man. Not to mention how late that party probably Saturday night went after the win over Ohio State. It's probably a little groggy Sunday morning.
They
and
lost
you lose a day.
2 days.
So you want to overcome that one, man. So Oregon improves to 7-0. First time since 2013 that they're 7-0. It was also the last time that they were 8-0, and Oregon has a chance to do that today as Illinois is in town. The game coming up at 12:30 right here on The Fan. You can see it if you're watching at home on CBS. It's going to be another big one. Brett Bielema brings his Fighting Illini in town to face the Ducks. Let's start looking at that matchup. We got a ton to get to over the next 2+ hours of the show. We're going to go behind enemy lines. We'll talk to somebody from Illinois to find out more about this team who's coming off a big win in their own right over Michigan at home last week. Mike Jorgenson will stop by. You're going to hear from Andrew Nimick. You're going to hear from Dan Lanning. You're going to hear from Joey Harrington. We are just getting started. It is a beautiful, chilly morning down here at Autzen. The sun is rising. Start diving into this matchup, some of the things that we like that Oregon can do this afternoon here at Autzen Stadium. You got the Ducks pregame show live down at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Russ here with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather. 55 and rainy in Portland, 53 partly cloudy in Eugene. The Ducks Game Day forecast calls for a pause in the rain this morning before picking back up and continuing overnight. High of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen. 68 partly cloudy, and looks like a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen right now, about an hour 45 from the city center. Careful on the wet roads out there. A smoky has been reported south of Albany. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Now's the time to get a great deal on select
Live down at Autzen Stadium, chilly October morning. Feels like Big Ten football. Illinois is in town for a 12:30 kick. Oregon looking to go 8-0 for the first time, since 2013. And
hold up.
What you got?
This wasn't like this wind tunnel that we're in.
yeah.
I'm sitting there freezing because when I walk from
right
the
over
car,
there, it's not bad.
Not at all.
Yeah, 20 feet that way.
Yes, I thought, this is a great day when I got in my car. It feels great. I'm freezing. This is a wind tunnel.
I thought I was a little over the top with a beannie today. I can't really put the headset on, but I got to keep the top of that. I'm losing my hair up here, man. I got to keep the dome warm.
I'm not good with cold. I don't do cold.
I love it.
I mean, you did play in L.A., New Orleans, in Oakland.
My coldest game was 8 below in Green Bay. That hurt me.
Yeah, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah, I was ready to go.
It hurts,
even though we won, I was like, let's get out of here. I don't care. Let's go.
I don't need to play in this
anymore,
anymore, man.
This.
Oh, brother. Oregon, Illinois coming up. And one of the things, guys, I want to talk about that I feel like has been the best that I've seen it in this program for a long time, and you could say really unleash the offense here the last couple of weeks. When was the last time we remember a vertical passing attack getting going the way that it has? And Gabriel is just dropping balls in the bucket. You got receivers making plays down the field. Evan Stewart has mainly been that guy, but it really feels like that was one of the criticisms we had kind of going into the Ohio State game is, can you push the ball down the field? Are you going to be effective doing it? Well, then they did it in their biggest game of the year, and then they came out last week just slinging it all over the place. This is the best vertical passing attack I can remember in a while.
You usually don't have, and you know this, 2 receivers that can just run past any cornerback. Yep. I mean, Tez Johnson can roll. Evan Stewart can roll, just taking the top off the defense. And that's an easy offensive call. Okay, Dylan, just drop back and throw the ball deep.
Throw it deep.
And just run right past the corners, receivers. And if you can do that, your defense is like, okay, we got to stop the run. Oh, we got to deal with the deep bomb, the explosion play. Oh, by the way, the tight end underneath. Don't forget the running game.
Yeah.
And then don't forget the worst for a defensive coach, the quarterback can run the football. And so now, as a defense, how do you play?
Well, and that's the thing, is we were talking about this early in the year, right? Everybody was saying, where's the deep ball, where's the deep ball, where's the deep ball? Well, what were defenses doing? What did Idaho and Boise State do? They capped the defense on the back end. They kept 2 high safeties deep. The corners played off, and they said, all right, we're going to dare them to beat us underneath. And what did Dylan Gabriel do? Completed 83% of his passes in the first few games, and that forced defenses up. And then when defenses started to come up, Boise State did it late. Evan Stewart, Trayshawn Holden go over the top. We saw it with Ohio State with Denzel Burke, allegedly one of the best corners in college football.
Yes.
And they went over the top against him. Purdue was saying we need to create pressure any way we can. And look, Purdue was effective, but they were having to bring 5 and 6 guys to do it, which leaves your corners on an island. So Dylan Gabriel makes you pay deep. Yeah. That is the sign of just an accurate quarterback, because Oregon has proven they can beat you both ways. Yep. We have a lot of quarterbacks across every level of football that either they can throw deep or they can throw underneath and be check down Charlie. Dylan Gabriel's proven that he can do both of them with elite accuracy. That throw to Noah Whittington.
Oh my God, that was the Ohio State game to Evan Stewart, too, in the end zone where he got the toe down, was just an insane accurate throw.
I know.
Back-to-back weeks, put it where only your guy can get it, and those guys are making plays on the ball, whether it's a receiver or a running back. And look, it's not just Tez and Evan Stewart that can beat you deep. They got like 4 guys. It's Tez, it's Evan, it's Trayshawn Holden, and also a guy that we saw a little bit of, Jeremiah McClellan. He came in, and he has elite speed on the outside.
Yes,
they've got 4 guys that, all right, bet we'll go deep on you, I dare you to stay in front of us. So it's impressive to see.
Last 2 games for Evan Stewart, 11 catches, 250 yards. He had the touchdown against Ohio State. Darn near had one in that opening drive last week against Purdue. He's averaging over 20 yards a catch in his last 2 games.
That seems good.
Just taking the top off. He did that against Boise State, to your point, Dusty, earlier in the year as well. And then he kind of was in a lull for a couple weeks. Not a lot from him. One of those guys fans were asking, hey, when are we going to see more Evan Stewart? There he is the last 2 weeks. Yeah. And I think Lanning talked about it this week as well, kind of to your point earlier, Anthony, where Tez Johnson was grabbing, felt like 7, 8, 9, 10 balls every game.
He was.
And so now secondaries are coming in a little bit saying, let's bracket this guy, let's have eyes on him, and all of a sudden it's one-on-one matchups on the other side.
Yes.
And Evan Stewart is proving that he can beat DBs one-on-one. I think the other thing offensively that was great to see, that we kind of touched on in the opening segment, that is only going to help them going forward, and Dusty, you just mentioned McClellan. How about Kenyon Sadiq having his first pop
there
game?
he goes.
How about
Yeah,
Jay
there you
Harris
go.
scoring his first touchdown? I mean,
I love Jay
Justice
Harris.
Lowe playing
Justice
well.
Lowe,
Justice Lowe.
in place
Lowe.
of Trayshawn Holden, who
Like
didn't end
Oswego
up playing
kid.
last week.
Yeah.
I mean, that one of the things I think we were all excited about coming into the year was the depth that you felt like this team had on paper. We just didn't see it a ton because they were kind of in tight ball games.
Yeah.
Now, either because of injuries and guys stepping up on both sides of the ball, and then a blowout game as well. It's nice to know that you can have those guys you can rely on. Kenyon Sadiq might be the best tight end you got on the damn field, but you got Terrence Ferguson, who's a senior, who's breaking all these records. Awesome to see him have a nice pop moment last weekend.
As a defensive coordinator, you're just, what do you stop? I mean, honestly, seriously, what do you stop? Okay, we stop the running game.
Sleeping.
Well, then there's, or you start praying. That's what you do. You start praying to get help because
you're praying for penalties. You're praying for turnovers. You need some help.
Yeah, there's so many weapons on this offense, and I say it all the time. The best player, I believe, on that field is the quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, because he touches the ball every offensive snap. And he's, and again, he's putting the ball in places where a defensive back can't make a play on it. How do you defend that? And then you're trying to say, okay, let's take care of the pass. Let's stop the explosion plays that Oregon's getting, but now you run the football down
5
the
yards
throat.
to carry, yeah.
And Jordan James and Noah Whittington. It's hard to do. Dan Lanning is telling his kids, no one can beat us, but we can beat ourselves.
Yeah.
So this game is not about the team that we're playing against. I don't care who we're playing against. It's about us. And that's when you got a good football team. It really is.
What do we feel like the running back rotation should look like going forward? It's one of those where everybody on social media will complain. A lot of people were saying, get Noah Whittington out of the game, and then he makes an insane catch that, basically pinned to his helmet in the corner of the end zone.
And he had a couple good runs right after that, too.
Yeah, he did.
Like that.
Well,
he's coming back from a major knee injury.
Yes, that's exactly right.
Yes, he
and
is.
he doesn't trust it yet.
Yes.
And you can tell
Thank
he doesn't
you.
trust it yet.
Thank you.
But sometimes it takes drives like that to get that faith back.
That confidence.
And it's week 7, and I know it makes a lot of people uncomfortable, but yet he still has that, right? And he has that ability in him. I would love to see more Jaden Lamar. I really would, but I think there is that. I think within the coaching staff, they know what Noah Whittington is capable of, and they're wanting to get him back to that point. And
what about Harris, though? That dude he looks like a LeGarrette Blount.
I'll tell you what,
he's a big
He's
dude,
a big dude.
Big dude.
I like him a lot.
I love him. I love him. And for y'all that are going to be listening, I talked to Jay Harris this week as part of our pregame show interview. He's a great young man. He's a great kid. But I think there's no mistake that we haven't seen Jay Harris to this point, in that we may see him ramp up. You get 4 years. He's a D2 transfer.
Right.
A guy who's as talented as him, he didn't redshirt. Okay? So 4 games, and now the playoffs in any postseason games,
Doesn't
so
count,
conference championship, playoff games, they do not count to those 4 games. I think we saw him against Purdue. I think we may see him 3 more times in the regular season this year to preserve his red shirt, still get him run in invaluable games, and as the season wears on, that wear and tear. Like, I don't know, like, this is not something that the Oregon staff has told me, but he's got 4 games. He's got 4 games.
That was the first
to
one he
play
appeared in last
That's
weekend.
the first one.
Yeah.
So he, coming down the stretch where they have 4 more regular season games, okay, he can play in 3 of those and still preserve his red shirt.
Gotcha.
They've been really smart the way they've handled that, I think, with a lot of their guys this year, of realizing you do want to get guys depth, but it's also important to preserve that extra year for guys.
Dante Moore as well.
Dante Moore
came in.
They've each played 2 games so far.
Yep.
So they're being really smart and cautious with that. Now, Novastad, I believe, redshirted last year.
He did redshirt last
year. So
Yes, he did.
He can't do it this year, but I think they're being very cautious with how they use Dante Moore. And I know that's led to online debates about who the backup quarterback is and who the guy will be next year. I think Dante Moore is number 2 right now. They didn't put him in last week because he's already played in 2, and you want to have 2 more available late in the season.
Correct.
But they've been really
will never
smart
tell you that. There will be a competition this spring.
That's right. Come on. It's wide open.
Behind closed doors, all the work that's
to your point,
place.
though, Anthony, about we watch him run, especially that touchdown that he had last week. One of the things that Oregon struggled with a little bit this year is running the ball inside the red zone. And not that it's not a unique thing to them. It's hard to run the ball when there's not a lot of space to work with. But he's a guy that when you watch him run and how physical and powerful he can be, that you think,
God, he's a big
all right,
kid.
3rd and goal from the 2-yard line, is there a back you'd rather have toting the rock than him to try and fall forward for a couple of yards? Because he, to your point, is 6'4", 220. I mean, he's just a massive
he's
human
a
being.
massive kid. Like, DBs are scared to hit that.
Yeah, I don't want to tackle
they
that.
They don't want to tackle that.
Running the other direction.
And when you're talking about in the red zone, I mean, he hits it so fast, the line of scrimmage, and then there's just his power, and he's very, explosive. So it just he looks crazy. I'm like, I don't want to hit that. He looks like he just got out of the weight room. He's hitting weights.
He's full pump, ready to go, man.
I mean, when I saw him on the sideline, I'm thinking, who is this kid? I'm like, oh, that's the backup running back.
Yeah.
Like, well, he's fourth string. The fourth string running back looks like that.
Yep. But imagine that guy with no wear and tear in November when you need tough yards, right? Yeah. I mean, that's the other scary part about it is like, oh, so he's healthy, and he will be healthy.
Yeah,
like that's a tough thing for a defense to go up against when you've been beat to hell all season long, and then
cold
here
weather.
comes number 22, just fresh and coming on the field. He's a special one, and look, no wonder the defense is so good too, because that's a scout team running back.
That's what you got tackled in practice the entire time. Yeah, and Kenyon Sadiq and all these guys. Yeah,
he's running a scout team. Like, oh, you kid? Okay, wow. Yeah, it's I'm telling you, I've seen a lot of football players. I've gone against a lot of football players, but when I saw him on the sideline, I'm not lying. I'm like, who is that?
Yeah.
He looks the part.
Absolutely,
he looks the part, and
he looks like a
and
middle
then
linebacker.
watching him really run, in real time, and that was like, okay, yeah, he's the future.
Not slow and lumbering. He's not one of those big backs that doesn't move very well. He moves very well for his size.
Just like Sadiq.
Exactly like Sadiq.
He looks like Sadiq. Sadiq looks like a goddess out there. Like, wait, who was that?
He's a 19-year-old sophomore, man.
And the crazy thing about him is that if you read up on Jay Harris's background a little bit. Yeah. He had a lot of family tragedy, and he was a first-team All-State running back in Missouri. He's a guy that got lost in the shuffle in the recruiting. He was kind of in that COVID cycle, right, coming out of it, got overlooked in Missouri, in the state of Missouri. But it's not like he went through a growth spurt when he got to Eugene. He's always been big. He lost his parents. He lost a grandparent. That was taking care of him. He has gone through a whole heck of a lot, and that kind of led to, him getting lost in the recruiting shuffle because he wasn't a guy that had, a lot of stability in his life around
the support system.
And it's not due to any decisions that he made. It was just like. He was upheaval in his personal life, and he's been through a whole heck of a lot, and he's a kid that you're going to want to root for because he's a great story coming out on the other side. Had to go to a D2, went to a D2 powerhouse and
dominated,
rushed for like 14. I think he had 1,400 yards rushing at Northwest Missouri State. He's pretty dang good.
Yep.
He's going to be a special one.
He's an easy one to root for. It's great to see him get his first touchdown last week on the road at Purdue. Let's start finding out more about who Oregon is going to play today. It seems like a traditional Big Ten team coming to town. Illinois, physical, run the football. Let's start diving into the matchup as we're getting closer to kickoff live down in Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Jeff Rust here with your Ducks game day traffic and weather. 55 and rainy in Portland, 53 partly cloudy in Eugene. Ducks game day forecast calls for a pause in the rain this morning before picking back up and continuing overnight, high of 66. For the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 partly cloudy and a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen right now, about an hour and 45 from the city center. Things looking pretty clear so far. A smoky has been reported south of Albany. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes. Brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Auto accident? Worried about your deductible?
of the year, and the junior celebrates with his teammates, and Oregon makes it a 34-0 ball game.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, by Unitas Community Credit Union, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Live down at Autzen. The sun is starting to peek through, and it feels glorious, man. Feels absolutely glorious. It's warming us up down here.
I'm not the type to lay in the sun, and get a suntan. But I'm telling you right now, this sun feels so good.
Just bask in it, baby.
Oh, hey, I'm not moving.
It's going to be a beautiful day for football. It's not supposed to rain. I think it's going to hold off till later tonight. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon for football.
I think 10% chance of rain during the game, throughout the course of the game.
I thought someone said it's going to pour down here.
Don't worry about that. My backpack is full of stuff in case it does rain.
You have to be prepared all the time.
Waterproof shoes. I got it all. But look, make no mistake. The mayor of the Mashosky Pavilion here complains about the wind and being too cold.
He does.
5 minutes later,
what happens?
The wind is dead and the sun is shining.
Yeah.
Guess what? Andy and I did that same thing back when you were up in the studio all warm.
Didn't get nothing.
It just got. I think the wind picked up.
It did.
It picked up.
Yep.
And meanwhile, you just say it one time. And look, the flags over there, they are howling. We got no wind here. The sun is shining.
Perfect.
Don't tell me you're not the mayor anymore. You own this place.
Autograph sessions coming up at 10:30 to 11 after the show. If you want to stop by, get an autograph from the mayor, it's going to happen as soon as we're done here.
I'm gone.
I love it, man. Looking at Illinois today, boys, this feels like this is Big Ten football. This is a team that's going to want to come in, and Oregon has faced Brett Bielema before in a big game, actually, in a Rose Bowl, and he's a guy wants to be physical, wants to run the football. I'll tell you, the one thing that stands out the most to me, and I think Lanning's touched on it this week, this is a team that doesn't hurt themselves very much.
That's right.
Turnover
Well
margin.
Yep.
I think their quarterback only has one interception on the year. It came against Penn State this season. It's a team that they're not going to come in, have 4 or 5 turnovers, a bunch of dumb, boneheaded plays. They're going to be physical at the line of scrimmage. They're not going to beat themselves. This could be a fun test for Oregon today.
Yeah, they don't have a lot of dudes going to play in the NFL, but they have enough football players, which they are a well-coached football team, and that's what you see, discipline. And that's why they play so well on offense and defense. Now, they're not lighting things up on the offense. They're ranked right now, I think, 90th in the country in offense. They're not great. They don't put a lot of points up, but they do enough to win.
Yeah.
And their defense helps them out with winning. They don't give up stupid plays. They make you earn your points. So it is going to be a battle. And again, this team is well coached. You're talking about a head coach who's been around the block. He's coached NFL, college, all kinds of different teams. So the team, the kids understand what they're in for or what they're in against with this Oregon team. They're not going to beat themselves.
Yeah.
Seriously, they won't.
Well, I call it the handyman offense, right? Because if you need somebody to specialize in something, you'll call a plumber or an electrician. They're a handyman offense. They can do everything pretty well, but when it comes time, you can be like, uh-oh, he's in over his head, and that's Luke Altmaier at times, right? He is risk-averse as a quarterback, which is really good in a Brett Bielema style of offense. But with that, his 15-1 touchdown to interception ratio, he takes a lot of sacks because he's so averse to throwing the ball into a bad situation. You look at that Penn State game, I think he was sacked 7 times against Penn State because he had an unwillingness to get rid of the ball and kind of let it fly. But when he does, it's because somebody is open and he's going to be making a big completion. Pat Bryant, as you said, Anthony, they don't have a lot of NFL dudes and Sunday dudes. Pat Bryant at wide receiver is one of them. He's a big body wide receiver. Gabe Akis, who is one of the edge rushers, he's a Sunday guy. He's one of the most effective pass rushers in all of college football. So they got these guys that they can shine, but it's this wealth of talent that they are lacking right now. And they're a good football team, very disciplined.
No doubt about that. It's going to be a fun one coming up 12:30 right here on The Fan. Let's find out more about Illinois coming up next. Mike Cagley of IlliniGuys.com. He's going to join us, give us a preview from their side of this matchup. That is next for Behind Enemy Lines, but now it's time for Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at VictorRicos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
55 and rainy currently in Portland, 54 partly cloudy in Eugene. Ducks game day forecast calls for a pause in the rain this morning before picking back up and continuing overnight. High of 66. For the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 partly cloudy and a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen right now, about an hour and 45 from the city center. Things looking pretty clear most of the way. A smoky has been reported south of Albany. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
If you're considering new construction and want it done right and fast,
refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Here's the sweep, the fly sweep, and the double. Oh, the ball's loose. Oregon might have a chance and will get on it back at the 23-yard line.
This is Behind Enemy Lines. A look at Ducks opponents with the insiders who know them best. On the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Live down here at Autzen Stadium. Sun coming up. Beautiful afternoon for football. Oregon, Illinois, 12:30 right here on the Fan. We'll take a look at our Zoom Care injury report in a moment. Let's find out more about Oregon's opponent today, though. Mike Cagley covers Illinois, IlliniGuys.com, at Mike Cagley on Twitter. You can go give him a follow. And Mike, good morning to you, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I'm curious, this is a 5-win team last year, already 6 this year. They've already topped their win total. What's been the biggest difference, and what's been the biggest change for Bielema and the Illini this year?
The biggest difference has been Luke Altmaier has more confidence than he had last season. Did a ton of work, obviously physically, but also did a lot of work psychologically, with a competitive sports psychologist. And I think that has made a difference. And then they were a young team last year, particularly in the defensive backfield. They had a lot of talent, but they were young. And so they got the snot beat out of them a few games and made mistakes that you would expect an inexperienced team to make. And this year, their physical skills are coming to play, and those dumb mistakes are happening very infrequently. So it's made a big difference.
Mike, there's a player on Illinois' offense that's really good, and the Oregon's defense has to deal with him, Pat Bryant. What makes him so good?
Pat Bryant is big. You get next to him, you think he's more of a running back build as opposed to a wide receiver. And he knows how to use his body. I look back, if you remember Illini great Aurelius Ben from the 2007 team that played against USC. Now, he's not quite the physical monster that Ben was, but he uses his leverage all the time. So he forces DBs to go through him if they want to get to the ball. And he's not a skinny guy, so that makes it tough. And he has excellent hands. And on the other side, Zachary Franklin, I will tell you, he is underutilized, and I do think there'll be a game sometime this year when he really breaks free. He has incredible hands, and he's starting to decide that with Brett Bielema as the head coach, he has to block downfield. So he's getting better at that as well.
You know, one thing that I was kind of looking at, and as I watch this Illinois team and Brett Bielema imprint, is the offensive line is usually dominant, and right now in pass protection, 20 sacks through 7 games, almost 3 per game. Is that maybe a little bit why Zachary Franklin isn't having the year that we thought he would, because that vertical passing game and his ability to get free? What's going on up front with the protection of Luke Altmaier?
Yeah, I think that's been probably the frustrating point. The challenges they've had have been particularly the guard positions have not as well as they anticipated. The center is undersized, and he's having to help out on situations, because the guard isn't getting the job done. And so that's been challenging. J.C. Davis has been pretty good at left tackle. And so when you look at it, they haven't had as much time to throw the deep ball. And if you watch Luke Altmaier on the deep ball, his placement is incredible. He really does hit guys in stride and in the hands. And he's probably, I'll be honest with you, sometimes his touch on the deep ball, you're like, that's better than it is on your shorter and intermediate passes. It can be surprising how well he places the ball, once you get to 30 yards and deeper.
Interesting. Their one loss this year, Mike, was on the road at Penn State earlier this season. I'm curious what you think they learned from that game. It was a tight, competitive game. They had a chance. The only game with an interception this year for them. What do you think they learned, and how much will that atmosphere and playing in an environment like that, you think, help them this afternoon at Autzen Stadium?
Well, I tell you, I think they learned they need to recruit better because the interior defensive line and the interior offensive line, those battles were won by Penn State. The game was probably farther apart than the 21-7 score would indicate. And I also think the speed rushers on Penn State were hard to handle and caused havoc, especially if you looked at, quarterback pressures per play. They were really tough. So when I look at this Oregon team, the thing that scares me is I just think they're so darn fast at almost every position. Illinois does not have that, but we've heard Oregon's between 20 and 23 million on their NIL, and I can tell you Illinois is sitting on. We got the 3 million covered really well. So there's a little difference there. Bielema's a hell of a coach, and I think we're seeing, if he had if you switch jobs with Bielema and you put him at Ohio State and you put Ryan Day at Illinois, Ryan Day's not 6-1 right now. Oh. That's just the facts of life. Yeah. Now, people don't like to admit that, but the fact of the matter is, you guys got a great one in Dan Lanning. He's an excellent coach as well, coming through that Alabama, that southeastern corridor. He understands football. I was really hoping he was going to go to Alabama and make it easier on the rest of the
Now, have you guys had any success trying to get out maybe some intel? Because Dan Lanning gave none based on his relationship with tight ends coach Robbie Disher. They were college teammates at William Jewell. Disher went to high school with Lanning's wife. That's about all we got out of Dan Lanning. What do you think the intel on two guys that played together, know each other very well, coached with each other at Georgia? Have you guys been able to get anything out of Disher or Barry Looney Jr., who coached with Will Stein at UT San Antonio?
No, both those gentlemen worked for Brett Bielema, and Brett spent 3 years working for Bill Belichick in the NFL after Arkansas. So I'm not certain that Brett tells his wife his full name. You got to keep information close to the vest, and Brett drives you nuts with that because he's really an engaging guy. But he also he looks at the media as a necessary evil, and I'm not so certain if he's sold on the necessary part.
We're 2,000 miles apart,
right.
but we got the same deal. We got the same deal.
Sounds very, very familiar. And Ryan Day slander, always welcome on the show, so you can come on anytime you want. We always enjoy that. Mike Cagley, IlliniGuys.com with a preview of Illinois, what they're bringing to the table here this afternoon at Autzen Stadium. Go give him a follow on Twitter at Mike Cagley. Thanks so much for the time, man. Enjoy the game today, and best of luck the rest of the year.
Yep, good luck.
There you go, Mike Cagley. Good stuff from him on. Yeah, you got that $23 million roster over there, right? Looking pretty nice down there in Eugene, Oregon, man. That was great. Ask, what'd you learn from that game at Penn State? You got to recruit a little bit better. They got hogs up front that we just don't quite have. And he's not wrong. I watched most of that Illinois-Penn State game, and it was one of those score a little misleading. Penn State was out playing them most of the game.
Really?
But they hung tough. I mean, the final was 21-7, so they've made a game competitive on the road against what is a top 5 team in the country. Now, is Penn State actually a top 5 team? I don't know, but there's a number next to their name that says they are right now. We'll find out this evening when they're on the road at Wisconsin. That is Behind Enemy Lines. Thanks again to Mike Cagley. Let's take a look at the injury report. What do we know about who's in and who's out? A whole bunch of games around the country are just about to kick off. We're just getting started down here at Autzen. The sun is up. Hope you got your coffee going, your bacon's going, ready to kick ass and watch some football this afternoon. It's going to be a fun day here at Autzen. Injury report coming up next time for Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather, though. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victorico's Mexican food. Order Victorico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victoricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
Currently 55 and rainy in Portland, 54 partly cloudy in Eugene. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for a pause in the rain this morning before picking back up, continuing overnight. Look for a high of 66. For the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 and partly cloudy, and a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen, just ticking up over an hour 45 from the city center. No major slowing yet. Smokey has been reported south of Albany, and another one just as you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day.
We should have our guys available. Right now, we're still waiting to see. We have some guys that still have to get healthy.
This is the Zoom Care Injury Report. A look at the injuries that could impact today's game and the key matchups in college football. Brought to you by Zoom Care. With more than 20 neighborhood clinics in Oregon and Southwest Washington, Zoom Care offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team, currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at zoomcare.com.
All right, welcome back in. Let's take a look at the injury report. What do we know about who's in and who's out for Oregon today? I'm sure the one that everybody will have their eye on is Jordan Birch. Just kind of based on the way things are going, I'd be surprised if he played today. We're not going to get a specific answer on that, on whether or not he will actually go. But I think if you're Oregon, you'd love the way that they have been able to replace him. And again, it goes back to kind of where we started, guys, with the show. Like, when you have a player of that caliber go down, Derek Harmon deserves a ton of credit. He's maybe one of the best interior or the best interior defensive lineman in the country this year. Jordan Birch is unquestionably coming into the year your best edge rusher, and you've got a couple of true sophomores on the outside that have stepped up and played major roles here the last couple of weeks. Mateo Uyunglele, I think, has had a coming-out party the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, as we all wait to see how long is Birch going to be back, I mean, he's going to be back at some point this year. Likely not today, but you love the way those young kids are playing on the edge.
Talk about depth. Talk about, you're just rotating defensive linemen in the game. And then anytime you have a guy at a 3 technique, which he's over inside the guard, outside the guard, a guy at the nose, over the center, and he's creating havoc, then your defense is really good. And that's Derek Harmon. He makes everybody else better because he's taking up double teams. Yet he is so quick and explosive off the ball that he can't be blocked. So now you're winning your defense inside out, and that's how you attack an offense, inside out. But then you have the young guys who step up. You have linebackers who are flowing sideline to sideline. And then the secondary, that's the issue. I mean, which is a good thing for Oregon's defense. It's a problem for the offense, for opposing offense, because there's nowhere to throw the ball down the field. You have coverage that guys are just the window is tight. So if a quarterback, you go, should I make this throw? That's a tight window right there. And they're playing man. By the way, I have pressure. I need to get out of here.
Dirt, I need you to mark down 2 things.
Okay, 2 things
that we need to get to. I think they need their own segments because I want to hear what Anthony has to say.
Okay.
Because there are 2 points that you just made and 1 point that Mike Cagley mentioned. with Derek Harmon, the interior offensive line of Illinois not being good, the impact he's going to make.
Oh, that's trouble.
And then those DBs on the outside and what they've done the last 2 weeks. I want to hear your thoughts on those on what's going on the outside a little bit later. But I think one thing that you missed, and I really want to touch on it, a guy you know well, a family you know very well, Mateo and Tatum Tuioti, they're getting a lot of the love. Amarion Winston has put his damn hand in the ground and gone from being stand-up to playing that Birch role as well. I didn't think he had the lead in his pencil to hold up there. He did it against Ohio State, and he did it against Purdue. And the most impressive thing is that those teams are coming out, and they're going right at him early, and he goes through it. He figures it out as the game goes on, and he has been a huge part of what Oregon has been doing defensively.
Well, he has two brothers, and they all play college football. One played here, Lamar, and Elijah played at USC, and I think he went to Nevada. And Amarion was the youngest. He was a baby. And a little quick story about Amarion. His freshman year, he was playing with us at Central Catholic, and we put him at DN, and he was a good-sized kid, and he was, he's going to be good. And he's coming off the sideline. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, yeah, I'm putting so-and-so in the game. I was like, why? Because the right tackle is too tough. He's killing me. I was like, what? He goes, Coach, I can't be in there. He goes, no, he took himself out. He's like, I can't do it. I'm thinking, are you kidding me? I'm thinking, I've never had a football player just like walk off and quit.
Yeah.
And, well, it changed over years because the kid got huge. And watching him now, it's a thrill for me because, again, I'm really close to his oldest brother, Lamar Winston. Yeah. I had at Central Catholic, and he was here at Oregon. But those boys have been raised, just in a perfect household by their mother. Very respectful, and the hardest working kids I know with that family. And all of them work hard. But Amarion is being the baby, always got picked on. He was always getting pushed around.
Made him tough, man.
Yes, and to watch him play, and I didn't think he was going to Oregon, to be honest. I thought, no, he's not going to go follow his brother Lamar. He's going to go somewhere else. No, Amarion's made his name here at Oregon just by being the player that he is as an edge rusher, a defensive lineman, putting his hand on the ground. He was an outside linebacker for most of the time for us, a little bit because he was so big as a freshman, we put him down. But, man, he's playing so well now. And to watch him, and he's young. He's still a baby.
Yeah.
That's the thing about
still
it.
Growing, still
he's
developing,
still growing,
man.
Yes.
It's a great spot to be as a staff, too, to not feel like you have to rush a guy like Birch back because of what you have behind him. You take your time, you get healthy. We'd love you for the stretch run, but we miss you today. We're hanging on okay without you. We'll all wait and see if Terrence Ferguson is going to play as well. He, of course, had his appendix ruptured in the middle of the week last week. Everybody's wondering, why the hell is Terrence Ferguson not playing on Friday night? I'm getting texts from all sorts of buddies. What's going on? I don't know. We're trying to figure it out. He's going to be okay. Will he play today? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But, again, similar to the note, Kenyon Sadiq filled that void excellently last week. So you got a lot of talent behind these guys, and that's a good problem to have for Dan Lanning.
And, look, I believe this. I think we can blame the message boards for why we didn't hear about Terrence Ferguson till Dan Lanning after the game.
Yeah.
Because when the message boards had the information on Jordan Birch before they were done with practice, it was
Shut it down.
We're not going to hear anything for a long time.
Not going to hear a beep, man.
As part of the injury report, I think it's a good thing to acknowledge. I've learned Dan Lanning's language a little bit. He said, we're going to keep evaluating in the status of Terrence Ferguson and Jordan Birch earlier this week. If he says that, I do not expect those guys to play this week. If he'll come out and he'll be like, good to go.
Yeah.
And that's when we know they're back. But the evaluating the status and they're progressing moving forward.
He's not playing.
That's the code for don't expect him to play this week. He won't outright say it, right? And maybe he surprises us one week and the guy he says that about does play. But if the guy's good to go, he's going to say, good to go.
And that's coach talk. It's like they play hard. That means they suck.
That means they suck. I love it. I love it. So that is your injury report. By the way, Trayshawn Holden should be good to go today. He was suspended last week, and so he's going to be back in action this afternoon. Injury report brought to you by Zoom Care with more than 20 neighborhood clinics. Oregon and Southwest Washington, Zoom Care offers convenient access to same-day urgent and emergency care, plus an expanded primary care team. Currently accepting new patients. Schedule or learn more at zoomcare.com. Let's get to our lock of the week. Boy, oh boy, was I wrong. We don't need to revisit that from last week. We're just going to move on. It's a new week.
Don't worry about
Legend
it.
Casino Hotel lock of the week. That is next. Ducks pregame show down at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Looking for an unforgettable escape
Casino Hotel lock of the week. There's no need to revisit why an idiot would take Nebraska plus 6.5 against Indiana on a 56-7 loss last week. There's no need to revisit. I don't know who would have done that. Couldn't have been me.
What was the score?
It was tight. I think it was 56-7. I think it was, ball could have gone either way.
It was tied at 0.
It's a coin flip ball game. One or two plays away from covering that number. I'm going to give you an early lock. By the way, a bunch of games around the country just kicking off, so we'll keep you up to date on what's going on. Washington at Indiana, looking for an upset bid against the undefeated Hoosiers, who are still in play to win a Big Ten championship. So we'll keep you up to date.
Don't go
on
against
that.
Indiana again.
I'm not touching that game, although I do like the Huskies, but that's not my lock of the week. I'm going to go with one later, boys. You guys explain this one to me if you can.
Okay.
Have you guys watched Oklahoma play football in the last month?
Not
yes.
very good.
It's not the Oklahoma we've come accustomed to seeing.
They are terrible.
I know.
They can't move the ball. Their offense is dysfunctional. They can't run it. They can't throw it. They're benching quarterbacks. All their receivers are hurt. They're on the road in a game that's just about to kick off at Ole Miss. The line is 19.
Ole Miss.
They're getting blown out by South Carolina. They're getting blown out by it's a bad football team right now. I think Ole Miss takes them behind the woodshed. That's my lock of the week. Ole Miss minus 19 against Oklahoma.
I like that.
Okay.
But I like the last pick you had last week, and I'm a fool too. I didn't tell you that because I told you, that's a good pick.
Yeah, go the other way right now. Go the other direction.
But I like this one.
Go hammer Oklahoma plus 19. You got time before it kicks off.
Ole Miss by 5.
Guaranteed. That's right. Went on a last-second field goal. Washington, by the way, just kicked off. They gave up a sack on their first play of the game, so the Hoosiers are rallying. They're already in 2nd and 23. Right out of the gate there in Bloomington, a whole bunch of games kicking off. We'll keep you up to date here in a moment with all of these scores from around the country. The Lock of the Week brought to you by Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish. Legends Casino Hotel within winning distance online at legendscasino.com. Let's get to our Audi Wilsonville keys to the game. Take a look at some of the big matchups. Dusty got to a few of them in the last segment that we'll start touching on that Oregon will need to win today in order to get a win over Illinois. That is coming up next. But now, time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes brought to you by Victoricos Mexican Food. Order Victoricos for your game day celebration in store or online for pickup or delivery at victoricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
55 and rainy currently in Portland, 55 partly cloudy in Eugene. Ducks Game Day forecast calls for pause in the rain this morning before picking back up and continuing overnight. High of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 partly cloudy, and it looks like it should stay dry throughout the game, knock on wood. Drive time to Autzen, just shy of an hour 50 from the city center. No major slowing yet. A smoky has been reported south of Albany. Another one just as you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victoricos Mexican Food.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male,
and units that have to have a big day for the Ducks. Brought to you on The Fan by Audi Wilsonville, offering unmatched service to help you find the perfect car. Online at AudiWilsonville.com.
All right, we got games kicking off all over college football. We'll let you know when we start getting some scores coming in. Let's get to our Audi Wilsonville keys to the game. And Dusty, you mentioned in a couple segments ago a thing to highlight. There is not a defensive lineman in the country this year that has more quarterback pressures than Derek Harmon. Leads the nation in quarterback pressures from the interior defensive line, something you usually don't see, and that has to be a big key for Oregon. It sounds like Penn State's issues, the guard center position. Harmon should have a feast today at Autzen Stadium.
Yeah, when the interior of your offensive line is the problem, Derek Harmon is a nightmare. And when Mike Cagley, we had on to talk about Illinois earlier behind enemy lines, I wrote in size 30 font on my document and showed it to
I saw
Anthony.
That was funny.
Derek Harmon, big day.
Big day.
Yes.
Jamari Caldwell and Derek Harmon could give Illinois nightmares.
Yeah.
The interior and being able to collapse the middle of the pocket when you have a quarterback like Drew Altmaier is paramount.
Well, when you go into a game and your offense, your center is the weak link, you have problems.
Oregon saw it. First 2 weeks, Oregon saw that.
Look what their offensive line looked like.
And then you're going against a team that their nose tackle will create havoc on most centers. What do you do? Now you got to have a double team. Well, now that's a problem because you can have two guys on one. You wouldn't know who else is blocking who with the one-on-one. So the defensive line for Oregon today, no doubt, will dominate. And I think they're going to be the key to the game.
We went through Ohio State. We had our 17 different keys as we kind of went around the old round table there. Not quite as many today, but anything else stand out to you guys if you're kind of circling as a matchup or an advantage for Oregon in order to win?
Dillon Gabriel. I say it all the time.
Yep.
I just say it all the time. He's the best football player on the field. He really is.
Might be the best quarterback in the country this year.
He's a dealer, man.
Yes,
he's a dealer. We talked about this earlier, but whether it's short or deep, he is accurate with the football, and that is a lethal weapon when you have a receiver room as good as what Oregon's receiver room is.
Yeah.
And we talked about this at the very beginning of the year, like how different it is to have an Oregon receiving core where it was like, well, maybe this guy steps up, maybe this guy steps up. It's like, all right, well, who on the bench is going to have a big day? Because you know what you're going to get out of your starters, and that is such an important thing to have. And look, I mean, Illinois guys said it. Ohio State fans are screaming at the mountaintop like they have any room to talk. But anybody that says NIL, like you wouldn't if you could have it on your roster too, because it is afforded Oregon depth. And it does not matter if you look at it. It wasn't called NIL. It was called a bagman, and the SEC did it for decades, right? Why do you think those rosters were always so stacked? But now, with NIL and legitimizing all of it, Oregon has dudes across the board at every level on both offense and defense.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, it ruffles feathers because they're not a traditional blue blood that's supposed to be able to do that. And so people from around the country say, hey, wait a minute, Oregon's buying all these guys like you haven't, like USC didn't back in the day. How'd the Don James era end in Seattle, by the way? I forget about that. Oh, that's right.
You go back to the 70s. Like, my dad played in the Southern California All-Star game in the Rose Bowl, and he has a story of like sitting in the Rose Bowl locker room and just watching guys with envelopes go and get handed to him. And my dad's like, what are you guys getting? He's like, where are you going? My dad said, Oregon. He goes, yeah, you're not getting one of these. It was UCLA and USC, like just actively handing out envelopes of cash to guys in the All-Star game locker room.
I didn't get a dime. So I didn't get a dime.
I'm waiting for that payback money, man. I'm waiting on those checks to clear for 40 years, man.
I was born at the wrong time.
You were wrong era, man. Wrong era. There's your Audi Wilsonville keys to the game. Audi Wilsonville offers unmatched service to help you find the perfect car online, AudiWilsonville.com. Let's preview the Big Ten. There's a couple of games that are already underway. Washington, Indiana, Nebraska, Ohio State. Just about to kick off, so we'll take a look at the Big Ten slate, including one game that happened last night. That is coming up next. We are live down here at Autzen Stadium, but now it is time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victoricos Mexican Food. Order Victoricos for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at Victoricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
It is currently 55 and rainy in Portland, 55 partly cloudy in Eugene. The Ducks game day forecast calls for a pause in the rain this morning before picking back up and continuing overnight. Let's look for a high of 66. For the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68, partly cloudy, and a good chance of staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen, just shy of an hour 50 from the city center. No major slowing yet. Smoky has been reported south of Albany, and another one just as you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
It's time to take a look at this big, beautiful coast-to-coast conference.
4 Big Ten teams, they will benefit. I can't wait for it.
This is the Big Ten Preview. A look at the conference schedule on the Odyssey app. And your home for Oregon Ducks football. 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Live down at Autzen Stadium. We'll give you score updates here in a moment. Let's take a look at the Big Ten, what's going on around the Big Ten today, including last night. You had 47 people in attendance for a USC win over Rutgers in a Friday night game. I may be exaggerating a little bit there, but not by much. There were not many people. There was a World Series game, a Laker game, a concert going on. USC football has fallen to the back burner for a lot of LA sports fans. That was a 42-20 win. Rutgers did make it a little uncomfortable early in the third. They got a score to make it 28-20, and you're like, oh, God, is USC going to do this again? They scored 14 unanswered the rest of the way, so USC gets back to 500 at 4-4 now on the season. Looking around the rest of the conference, guys, I think really exciting and interesting games, starting with this Washington-Indiana game. It is scoreless still. Washington just went for it on fourth down on their own 40-yard line early. They picked it up. Each team has traded a punt, but an opportunity for Jed Fish to get a big marquee win. I think as every week goes on, we will think less highly of their win over Michigan, because I still think Michigan's a very good football team this year. So you're on the road. You're off of a bye, by the way. He came out this week and said, hey, last time we were a 9 a.m. game at Iowa, I didn't prepare our team the way that I should have. We weren't ready. You appreciate the honesty, but not great to hear that from a head coach. They had a bye week to get ready for this one. This is a good opportunity against an Indiana team who is somehow undefeated, but playing with their backup quarterback this afternoon or this morning.
Well, Washington, I'm not saying this because I'm not a Washington fan. I'm just saying it because this is real. Who do they have? The whole coaching staff left. All the players took off. And then when you're bringing in a whole new crew, I don't care who you are. That's hard to do. That's hard to be a good football team, to have a good football team. So Washington, when people beat Washington, it's like, who's Washington? Washington's going off the name right now because they were in the national championship, but they're not the same team.
There's about 7 of those guys left
not
on the
even
team.
Close to what they were last year. So, in Indiana, right now, Indiana's doing some good things.
7-0, man. 7-0. Best win of the year was last week against Nebraska.
Yeah.
They did lose a lot of talent. I do think Jed Fish is a good coach. They're going to be better at the end of the year than they were at the beginning of the year. They do have a talent gap, though, that they're missing at UW right now. But, if they can get a little momentum, put a pelt on their wall, that is huge for Washington moving forward.
Next year and the year after, yes, different story. But this year,
Yeah, they're not there right now.
It's all going to come down to Jonah Coleman today. He is one of the best backs, the transfer from Arizona that came with Jed Fish. So we'll keep you up to date. Washington is driving in the first half of that game. I think one of the reasons it could be a chance for them to pull off a win is I just don't think Indiana – I don't know, maybe I'm being disrespectful. I don't know how good Indiana is.
True.
They played nobody in non-conference. Their best conference win so far is against Nebraska. They haven't played Oregon, Penn State, Ohio State. So they're missing a lot of the upper echelon teams in the Big Ten, and they're playing with their backup. So we'll see how that game goes. Nebraska is already punting on their opening drive, so that didn't take long. They're taking on Ohio State on the road. That game just kicked off a couple minutes in. Ohio State's going to have a short field early in that one after a bad punt. Northwestern and Iowa coming up later this afternoon. And I think the other game that we all kind of have circled, Oregon is going to play one of these teams, not the other, but you get them in a couple of weeks at Camp Randall. Penn State on the road at Wisconsin. I think it's going to be a fun game tonight for those who are sitting at home watching football, or maybe you get home from the Duck game and you kind of catch the second half there. Just seeing what Penn State can do on the road in a tough environment against the Wisconsin team, all of a sudden that's playing better football. Didn't think much of them earlier this year. They rattled off a couple of wins. They look better, and I just don't know what to make of the Nittany Lions again this season, a team that can't beat the elite teams but beats up on the bad teams. So 4:30, you got that one later today on NBC Peacock. And then Michigan State, Michigan. Where would we gamble that game if you could gamble that game? Michigan can't complete a forward pass. I don't think Michigan State's that good, but they took Iowa behind the woodshed last week.
They did.
That's like a battle of Who's going to suck less tonight in Ann Arbor? We'll find a way to win that game. Michigan State and Michigan coming up at 4:30. That is on the Big Ten Network. There's a look around the conference.
Washington just threw a pick six, by the way.
Yes, they did. Washington threw a pick six on their second drive. So to Anthony's point, what the hell are you doing here, man? Come on.
Yeah.
It's already 7-0 Indiana. Glad that wasn't my lock of the week. Dodged a bullet early on. Let's hear from the head coach of the Oregon Ducks, Dan Lanning. He joins Isaac and Suk every single Thursday. What do you have to say after last week's game and going into the matchup today against Illinois? Dan Lanning is next. You got the Ducks pregame show live down at a sunny Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Looking for a better primary?
Illinois is interesting that, when you describe them and what they bring to the table, it's just classic Big Ten football. Does that make it tougher? Like, I know you love to sit and watch film and the X's and O's of it, but in this instance, there's, they're not bringing a lot of trickery. They just want to be tough and play tough smash mouth football. Does that make it tougher to play a team like that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it makes it any tougher. I would say that this team still has a great element of tricks. If you actually watch them play, you'll see that they run a multitude of things, and they do some stuff that create explosive plays. I think what always challenges you when you play teams that are physical like this and they establish the run is they kind of lull you to sleep, and then all of a sudden they hit a trick pass or they hit a double move on the outside, and that's what Illinois has done a really good job of this past season. How
often does it occur where you're surprised by a team once you lace them up? I mean, how often does the film not tell the whole story?
Not often. I mean, it happens from time to time, and you never know until you step on the field with the team. But this team's certainly capable and talented. They've got some great rushers up front. They do a good job of protecting the ball. I mean, their quarterback's thrown one interception all season for a reason. I think that speaks a lot to the job that their coaches have done and the job their quarterback has done as well. But again, they attack the ball. I think, what you see on film is who they are.
They're coming. I mean, it's a good, healthy trip coming from Champaign out here. You guys just did the Purdue thing. A lot has been made of the Big Ten travel. If you just kind of your general thoughts on is that that a thing? Do we make too much of that in the media? Kind of the travel schedule, because it does feel like the road teams that are going 2 and 3 time zones away, and I know it's a small sample, have had some challenges this year.
Well, I don't think it's necessarily easy, but I think it's what you see on, you watch Sunday football, you see it every single week in the NFL. That's how the game's played. So it is what it is. Who can adapt to it the best, who can do the best job of owning that, I think is important.
Is there anything that you do or will do? I know that was kind of your first big road trip. As you look forward to some of these, do you change anything at all in the preparation, or is it just kind of a learn as you go?
No, I mean, there's certainly some things that we do slightly different when it comes to travel. I don't know that I'll share any of them here with you guys, but yeah, there's some things that you do a little bit differently.
Good luck against Illinois, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks, Coach.
All right, appreciate you guys. Have a good one.
Dan Lanning's appearances here on our show are brought to you by Unitas Community Credit Union. Like a coach's playbook, Unitas has a winning strategy for your finances. You, us, Unitas.
It is 54 with some showers in Portland, 56 and partly cloudy in Eugene. Ducks game day forecast calls for a pause in the rain this morning before picking back up and continuing overnight. High of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 and partly cloudy. Looks like a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen just shy of an hour 50 from the city center right now. No major slowing yet, but smoky reported south of Albany, and another one just as you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
I'm Leif, owner of Leif's Auto Collision Centers. A recent survey found 90% of auto collision repairs performed at insurance-recommended discount body shops were substandard. Why? Insurance companies require these preferred discount shops fix cars on the cheap with imitation parts and cutting corners. You have a choice: the insurance-preferred body shop or Leif's. Pre-loss condition, factory parts, pickup and delivery across the Northwest. Loaners, deduct assist. Leif's, we're number one for a reason.
Let's find out who the next Ducks will be.
Oregon has really, really put their hooks in the Northwest. Suddenly, this class looks like it could be very, very special.
It's time for Recruiting with Andrew Nemick, the Ducks Game Day edition on 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's talk some recruiting. Welcome back in live down at Autzen Stadium. It is beautiful down here now. Sun's coming up, starting to warm up a little bit. Going to be a great day for football. Let's find out who is in town, who's visiting, what do we need to know. Andrew Nemick, our director of recruiting, high school on SI. And you can follow him on Twitter at Andrew Nemick. Hear him every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. right here on The Fan. Nemick, I know so much was built into that Ohio State game a couple of weeks ago, and they are going to feel and pay the dividends of that for years to come after that big win. What does it look like this weekend? Is it a big visitor list? What do we know about who's in town this afternoon?
Well, it's a key visitor list. I don't know if it's a huge visitor list, but it's an important one. We've talked about quarterback. Get ready to play that drop of me butchering a name, because that's the young man who's visiting this weekend. Jaron Sangopolu-Tele is visiting this weekend.
Well done.
Hey, wait, that was good. Well done.
He's risen up to the number 8 quarterback in the nation. This is Jaron Sangopolu-Tele. Well, whatever, that kid. Yeah, he's visiting. He has since picked up an offer from Georgia, and this is looking very much like an Oregon-Georgia battle. He's committed to Cal, by the way. Not that that means anything. This is looking like an Oregon-Georgia battle. He will visit Georgia again. And then the other major position to watch is tight end. Oregon's needed a tight end. We talked about offensive line. They ended up addressing that with a couple of guys rising up in the rankings, then obviously getting Douglas Utu, who's now a 5-star recruit on a couple different recruiting sites. Then the last issue here for this class that they need to really address is tight end. They're hosting a pair of committed tight ends. They'd like to flip either one. Andrew Olish is the big name on that group. He's the number 3 tight end in the nation, the number 47 overall prospect. He's committed to Michigan. And then Vander Flug. Vander Flug is committed to Washington. His stock has risen significantly since his commitment. You've seen a lot of the big boys reach out, gauge his interest. This is really one to watch. He is very excited about this trip when I had a chance to talk to him earlier this week. Really excited. And this is another trip to Eugene. He has made multiple trips to Eugene since his commitment to Washington. And it's almost becoming a thing where he's there for every home game. That's usually a pretty good sign that a kid is very, very interested. So keep an eye on Vander here for this weekend. There's a possible flip incoming.
I bet Jed Fish is thrilled about that. This committed tight ends hanging out in Eugene every weekend. What do we know about the corner position, Nimick? I'm curious to ask you about that. I saw some of the predictors out there saying there's one of Oregon's cornerbacks maybe is going to flip. I know they're going after that Neem Offord guy, I believe his name is, 5-star kid committed to Ohio State. What do we feel about the potential flips either way?
Yeah, it's definitely a position to watch. I said when Brandon Finney committed that was really, really one to watch because Penn State and Michigan were going to continue to recruit him. Sure enough, months later, now he's saying, well, I'm visiting Michigan and Penn State. I have seen some predictions for him to flip to Penn State. Wouldn't shock me. That being said, Oregon's going to do everything they can. They did host him for that big Ohio State game. Neem Offord also visited Oregon for that big Ohio State game. I wasn't blown away by what he had to say about Oregon after that visit. He liked it, said it was a great trip, said it was the best game day environment, but also didn't gush about Oregon. He gushed about both teams. These are two of the best teams in the country, and it was great to watch them both compete. Those are the kind of quotes he gave. Really excited to see Ohio State in this kind of environment, and what a great win for Oregon. But he kind of complimented both. He's either been coached up really well, or Oregon didn't necessarily do enough quite yet to flip him. So definitely two big names to watch. And then obviously, I'm hoping we're getting to it. Mater Dei's big win last night and everything that went into that.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that because there was a football game that was attended more than the USC Rutgers game in L.A., and it was St. John Bosco against Mater Dei, 1 versus 2 in the country. What was the kind of buzz around that game where there is talent upon talent on both sides of the football for both teams, and Oregon's presence at that one, because it's kind of hard when you're up in Oregon getting ready for a game and you have two of the top teams in the country down there playing head-to-head?
Well, what's impressive about that game, and that game has dictated the national champion, I think, 3 of the last 4 years. The winner of the Mater Dei John Bosco game is eventually named the national champion. Oregon has recruited both really well, but Mater Dei is really their pipeline, and Mater Dei is number 1. So if you're a Duck fan going into that game, you're probably rooting for Mater Dei, with apologies to the Uiagalelei family and Mateo specifically, because he's from Bosco. But Mater Dei is just an Oregon pipeline right now. Again, that's number 1 versus number 2 in the country, not in the state, in the entire country. Mater Dei could pick your score. It was something like 31-0 in the second quarter. They ended up winning 59-14. That's how good Mater Dei is. And by the way, like 4 of their best 5 players are all committed to Oregon. So if you're an Oregon fan and you're going, well, what are our chances on the national landscape? Well, the number 1 high school program in the country that's kicking the crap out of everybody who's also in the top 10, they're all going to Oregon. Before the game, NSHS got a chance to meet with Nasir Wyatt. He's committed to Oregon. He says based on his play this year, he thinks there's no doubt he's the best edge rusher in the country. There are some folks who might disagree with that. I happen to not be one of them. Yasir Wyatt's one of my favorite players in this class. I think he's absolutely phenomenal. And I do feel he's a little underrated. I feel like he should be getting a little bit of five-star talk, and he's not. Jordan Davison is a five-star running back on Rivals. He's committed to Oregon, the next Jordan that's going to lead the running back room. He dominated the game, was averaging over 6 yards a carry for most of the game while it was competitive. Oregon obviously has Cody Green, who's a big-time five-star offensive lineman, who they ran behind for much of that game. So if you're an Oregon fan watching that modern-day game, you have to be absolutely thrilled. Those are all their targets. They're a lot of their commitments. And that modern-day team is clearly probably a 2 to 3 touchdown favorite against anyone else in the country. Wow. Florida, Texas, Georgia, any other team in California, you name it. That's how good modern day is. And again, it's Oregon's biggest pipeline.
That's a great sign. Also, thank you, Lincoln Riley, for not trying to recruit your own state and your own city, because that's very helpful. We appreciate it. Andrew Nimick, high school on SI. You can hear him every Thursday, 7 to 8 p.m. right here on The Fan, at Andrew Nimick on Twitter. Go give him a follow. He's our recruiting insider. We talk to him every week on the pregame show. Nimick, thanks so much for the time, man. We'll chat again next weekend.
Thanks. Go Monarchs.
Yeah, go Monarchs. There you go. Andrew Nimick with our recruiting update. There was a graphic floating around this week. The highest percentage of blue-chip recruits in their 2025 recruiting class, Oregon is number 1 in the country.
That is unreal.
Now, they don't have the volume of commits that some other classes do. That's why their overall class is ranked 7th. They have a smaller class so far that they're bringing in. But 88% of the kids committed, blue-chip recruits. That is number 1 in the country for 2025.
Man. That is crazy.
I'm sure Anthony Newman thought that was coming in 1987. I can see the future.
That is unreal.
It's wild, man.
That's wild.
Full steam ahead in the recruiting world right now.
That's so nice.
And as Nimick said, some big kids in town today as well. Let's reset things, dive into some other matchups of Oregon and Illinois getting closer to kickoff. That is coming up next. Time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
55 and cloudy now in Portland, 56 partly cloudy in Eugene. Ducks Game Day forecast says rain should pick up again and this afternoon and continue overnight. High of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 and partly cloudy, and a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen ticking up, still just under 2 hours, though, from the city center. Slowing, developing as you leave Salem and again south of Albany. A Smokey's been reported right at Arndt Road, and another one just before you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Ducks Game Day continues.
Here's a pitch coming left, 10-yard line, inside of the 5. Harris will score. Nice blocking on the left-hand side as Jay Harris gets his first touchdown of the year, and the junior celebrates with his teammates, and Oregon makes it a 34-0 ball game.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day, an insider's preview of today's game between the Oregon Ducks and the Illinois Fighting Illini. Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light, Pacific Office Automation, Mods PDX, Victor Rico's Mexican Food, Legends Casino Hotel in Toppenish, by Zoom Care, Bellagio's Pizza, Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division, Audi Wilsonville, Laurelhurst Market, by Unitas Community Credit Union, and by Langdon Farms Golf Club. Now, here are your hosts, Andy Johnson, Dusty Hara, and former Ducks and NFL star Anthony Newman, with Ducks Game Day on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Hour number 2, Ducks Game Day on The Fan, presented by Coors Light, Mountain Cold Refreshment. Choose chill, celebrate responsibly. The gates are open. Fans starting to pile in. I have not seen a lot of blue and orange yet. I don't think there's going to be quite as much blue and orange, although my mom was at the employee store yesterday, and she said it was packed with Illini fans when she went yesterday afternoon. So I imagine a lot of Illini fans flew in a day early, go check out Nike and all that stuff.
True.
She said she was walking around and nothing but Illinois fans. So we'll see. I'm curious how much blue and orange is in the stands today.
Heck is letting them in.
Yeah. Get them out of here, man. It's going to be a beautiful day. Sun is shining, getting closer and closer to kickoff coming up 12:30, 3 hours from now.
We just had our first P1 celebrity sighting. Masters Pete just
Masters
rolled
Pete
up.
Yeah,
he just came by, yeah.
All right. There you go.
Masters
Showing up.
Pete just came up.
I love it. We'll give you a score update here in a moment of what's going on around the country. Let's dive into one of the matchups that we have not talked about yet, one of the things we haven't talked about yet. We discussed it earlier, Dustin. You wanted to bring it up. The way Oregon's secondary is playing, definitely highlighted by Jabbar Muhammad, who had a couple of really nice plays again late in that game last week. But I think not only are you seeing your number one corner be a lockdown guy, but it's also a strength in numbers thing where it doesn't feel like there's that fall off that maybe some fans are worried about, where you got corner one and then a bunch of questions. They're playing really well in the back end right now.
Irrational confidence is key when you're playing corner.
Yes.
Because you're going to get beat. And, Anthony, we talked about this a lot after UCLA, after Michigan State. But something seems to have changed since the Ohio State game, not with Jabbar Muhammad, but with CB2, whether it's Nico Reed or Dante Manning.
Whoever, yep.
It feels like those guys are playing with a lot more confidence on the outside, on the other side from Muhammad.
Well, I think you play that way when you know you have a D-line that can get to the quarterback and make that quarterback maybe speed up his process, trying to throw the ball faster than he wants to. But then also you have to have self-confidence. You got to feel good with yourself. Hey, I can cover this guy. And they're playing a lot of man coverage. So when the quarterback's looking back, he's dropping back in the pocket. There's no windows to throw to. You see a man on a man. And if you feel comfortable with yourself covering a guy that may be faster than you, but you trust your technique, then all of a sudden your linemen help you. Because now they're making those quarterbacks, those are not perfect balls. We're not playing 7-on-7 when there's no pass rush. You're running for your life trying to make a great throw, and that's hard. And then we talk about most interceptions happen because of tips and overthrow, about 85%. So if you're around the receiver, you're even close to the receiver, the ball's going to be either tipped, bad ball, overthrown, and you get the pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're really playing well in all three phases right now, and that helps them in the back end. I think it also just helps, too, the confidence of knowing if you need a little help on one side of the field, that you got a corner who is one of the best in coverage in the entire country, and Jabbar Muhammad can go one-on-one and say, hey, you want to roll a safety over the other side? We can do that. We can help over the top if we need to, but I don't know if there's many people around college football right now that you trust more in one-on-one battles down the field, and it's remarkable watching him up close, too, because he's not the biggest guy, which kind of makes sense of why maybe he was slept on a little bit coming out of high school. Size-wise, he's not massive, but his ability to make plays and just to know where the ball is, turn his head, he's just so fundamentally sound.
That he comes from, like, if you go down to DeSoto, Texas, where he's from, and you mentioned the Muhammad name, his family is known for defensive back play. And so he has grown up as being a kid that playing DB is literally in his DNA.
Yes.
Like his dad, uncles, brothers, cousins, everybody plays DB.
Interesting.
In the Muhammad family. And I talked to him about the fourth down play against Purdue. Receiver, he is 5'9" listed. 6'3", and every bit of it was the wide receiver he's going up against. And he went up and he made a play on that football. He does not care, because when you have timing, when you have the innate ability to play a ball and play hands, height doesn't matter on the outside.
No, it doesn't.
Very few people have that. He has that.
Yeah, he's been fun to watch this year, man. One of the big-time additions for Dan Lanning and that staff. A weakness, you would argue, the team last year that has been shored up this year with the way they're playing across the board. And to Anthony's point, helps a ton when you got dudes who can get after the quarterback and you only got 3 or 4 seconds to throw. You can guard for 3 or 4 seconds. Guarding for 7 or 8, that's a different equation, man.
And that's a big one with those corners on the opposite side is that Michigan State and UCLA, they were saying, play soft, we're gonna bang that 10-yard out all day long. We're going to bang that 10-yard out. They've started saying, nope, we can play closer because we're going to get home.
That's right.
Yep, we trust that pass rush. Let's take a look at the scores around the country. A few games underway. We just had a fourth down stop in one of the games. Top 10 team is already up, or a top 12 team, I should say, 14-0. One offense is struggling. We'll take a look around the world of college football as games are just getting underway. That is coming up next. We're live down at Autzen Stadium for the Oregon Duck pregame show on 1080 The Fan.
traffic and weather. 55 with some sprinkles currently in the Portland area. 56 and fair in Eugene. Ducks game day forecast says rain should pick up again this afternoon and continue overnight with a high of 66 today. For the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68, partly cloudy. Looks like a good chance of staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen is ticking up. Still under 2 hours, though, from the city center. Got some slowing on I-5 as you're leaving the city. As you leave Salem and maybe a little south of Albany. A smoky has been reported on I-205 at Gladstone, and another one just before you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Coors Light presents Ducks Game Day. Mountain cold refreshment. Choose chill. Celebrate responsibly.
Now going to go deep. Boys got him down there. Catch made. Keep your balance. Touchdown, Oregon.
It's time for the Ducks Game Day scoreboard with previews and scores from around the country on your home for Oregon Ducks football, the Odyssey app, and 1080 The Fan.
All right, I'll take a quick look around the scores across the world of college football. Not a lot of games going on early this morning, although some of them are interesting. We'll start in Bloomington, Indiana, where we have reached the end of the first quarter. And it is 7-0. Washington threw a pick six. Will Rogers threw a pick six on their second drive of the game. Then Washington got a stop on 4th and short, and Indiana just returned the favor. Washington was driving about the Indiana 30 or so yard line, went for it on 4th and short, got stuffed, and so Indiana now with the ball back. And so we have a 7-0 game there. Indiana with the lead over the Huskies.
That just wasn't a pick six. That was one of the more incredible pick sixes that you will see.
It was an insane play.
That was sweet.
You had a safety was lined up over the slot, and UW tried to throw a quick screen. He jumped it, but he went inside of a tight end to do it and went all the way for a touchdown.
Long one, too. It was a long pick
What did you say? That DB did his homework? He was watching film?
Oh, I know what play's coming.
He saw the play coming.
I know what's happening right now. I know what's going to take place here.
And like Alex Molden, who you coach with, he's got a great story about the pick, right? Kenny Wheaton. And talking to Kenny Wheaton the week leading up, saying, hey, if they are inside the red zone, they will throw that 5-yard out.
Yeah.
And that, he said, that's your play, Kenny. That's your play.
You go chase it down.
Sure enough, Kenny Wheaton goes the other way.
I think he scored. I think he scored.
Jerry Allen told me. He's gonna. He did.
So that game's still 7-0. Washington's defense hanging tough, though. Indiana's struggling to move the ball with their backup quarterback. It is 4th down. Indiana's already punting the ball back to the Huskies. So 7-0 there early in the second quarter. Ohio State's offense is in a sleepy slumber early in that game against Nebraska. They are going to punt again, it looks like, for the third time early in that one. That is a scoreless game. I know it was a flag, so they might have given the drive extended. But scoreless near the end of the first quarter. Nebraska can't move the ball to save their life. Ohio State's offense is sleepwalking early. That is a 0-0 game late in the first quarter.
Anthony will tell you this is his type of game. No, this is
Slugfest.
Defense
That's
play.
Right. It's a good football.
Not the
right
offense.
Elite
Come on.
defense.
You're part of the problem.
It's
the offense sleepwalking, not the defense putting the clamps down. Come on, Dirk.
They're roughing the passer call to extend that drive for Ohio State, so they're going to keep the ball. Ole Miss and Oklahoma's tied at 7 in the second quarter of that one, so that lock of the week looking good early. I guess Oklahoma found their offense all of a sudden. And Notre Dame with a 14-0 lead over Navy. Navy, one of those teams. What a great story Navy has been this year. And with a chance maybe to push for a playoff spot. Maybe those wheels are coming off this week. Boise with a big win last night to maybe lock up that. We'll have to see how the rest of the year goes. But Notre Dame, 14-0 early against Navy. I believe they're driving as well, so they got a chance to extend that lead even further. They're playing that one in East Rutherford where the Jets and the Giants play. There's a look around the world of college football. Let's dive back into this matchup, Oregon and Illinois. Less than 3 hours away now. How do we feel about Oregon attacking this weakness of Illinois? That's coming up next. You got the Ducks pregame show live down at Autzen on 1080 The Fan.
Drive home in the Audi SUV of your dreams at Audi Wilsonville. Now through October 31st, get point
Currently 55 with some sprinkles in the Portland area, 56 and fair in Eugene. Ducks game day forecast says the rain should pick up again this afternoon and continue overnight. Look for a high of 66. For the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68, partly cloudy, and a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. Drive time to Autzen, still just barely under 2 hours from the city center. Some slowing on I-5 as you leave the city, as you leave Salem, and maybe a little more south of Albany. Smoky has been reported on I-205 at Gladstone, and another one just before you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day Traffic and Weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Football season is back, and that means Ducks Game
And 1080 The Fan.
All right, let's get into this matchup later on today at Autzen, 12:30, Oregon and Illinois, because it is my game to watch. It's a top 20 game. It's funny how when the schedule comes out, you kind of look at the games. Ooh, that'll be fun. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Ooh, this one, all right, who really cares? It's funny, these next couple of weeks, we all kind of circled, going to Ann Arbor next week. Wow, it's going to be a fun, exciting game. And now Michigan, who knows how it's going to go, but not looking great. And Illinois is a top 20 team coming into town.
It's crazy.
Blind squirrel finds a nut every now and again. When the schedule came out, I said, Illinois will not be a game that you just chalk a W to.
Yeah.
And I got mocked and ridiculed. You know what? You know what the Vancouver Ford text line is like.
Not nice sometimes.
I was like, no, Illinois is going to be a pesky team. They're well coached.
Yeah.
You know that they have in Gabe Akis, who we haven't even talked about, Gabe Akis, who may be one of the best edge rushers in all of college football for Illinois. We knew that Pat Bryant was there. We knew that they had some speed at the receiver position. I was like, they could be. I didn't think they're this good. This is the team that Joel Klatt is saying is the most underrated team in college football right now in Illinois.
But think about it. Okay, why would we talk about Illinois and Indiana before this? I mean,
it's a little weird. I know. It's still weird.
If you're talking about the Big Ten, you're talking about Michigan.
Yeah,
Ohio State, Penn State. You're not talking about who's this? Now you're going, whoa, okay, we got some players here.
One thing that I do kind of circle in this game to see now, it was similar last week in Oregon. It wasn't like they lit Purdue up on the ground. I think a lot of that was their scheme coming in, saying let's try and bottle things up and make them throw the ball to beat us. Which, all right, Dylan Gabriel said, sure, we'll do that. That's fine. Illinois' run defense on the year, they do have some incredible edge rushers who can get after the quarterback. Their run defense on the year is 16th in the Big Ten right now.
Yeah.
Now, they've played some of the better running. Michigan can only run the football.
Yeah.
Penn State tries to run the ball a lot on you. So they played some of those teams early on in the year. That's one of those strengths for strengths of, if they're going to find a way to make this game tough and competitive, that has to be a misleading stat. Because if Oregon can run the football, Illinois is going to have a hard time today.
Anthony, I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because I think that's one thing that Oregon is doing a really good job of, especially when you got young guys on the edge, is the ability to be good against the pass rush. This pass rush for Illinois, they get to the quarterback. They got 20 sacks this year. They can pin the ears back and go, but against the run, that's a different story.
Yes, it is.
Oregon has done a really good job of not being a one-trick pony.
That's right.
What is it that makes a team good at both? Because so often we see you're either good at one or you're good at the other.
Well, we always say that with our defensive linemen, you guys don't get sacks. You get TFLs, tackles for loss. Our linebackers, if we're blitzing them, they'll get the sacks. Because if you're a D lineman and you want to get a sack, you run up the field and you get way up the field 5, 6, 7 yards. Next thing you know, they're running the football. And now you're not stopping the run.
Yeah.
And then that's when it's a problem.
The heel line.
Yes, exactly. So offensive and defensive linemen have to understand, okay, no, I'm going to get, 3, maybe a yard or 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage, and I'm going to hold. I'm trying to see, hey, where's the running back? Is the guard pulling? Do I need to get in his hip? All those little things. I need to stop the run. Oh, it's a pass. Now I need to redirect and get to the quarterback and then be under control if it's a running quarterback. But there's only so many teams can do that. There's not a lot of teams that can do both. It's really hard.
And that's the beauty of what Derek Harmon and Jamari Caldwell are doing in the interior of the offensive lines, to the interior of offensive lines, is that that heel line is that 2 to 3 yards, right? The heels of where the offensive linemen are in that backfield, right? You got to play right there. And I told Derek Harmon, I want a sack assist to be something, because those guys, they create pressure, they create havoc, and allow the outside guys to go, because the outside guys, it's a lot easier to get that read of pass run when you're coming off the edge and you don't have guys coming from either side.
Right.
Those guys in the middle have done a phenomenal job of bottling things up.
We almost need to have the hockey assist for sacks.
That's what I'm talking about.
You need hey,
why not?
You push the guy into this guy who freed up this guy. That's the reason he got the sack, right? I mean, that's just the way that it works usually.
True.
And those are the guys that you don't talk about or don't highlight, because there's not a number that shows up on a box score to say, oh, he did X, Y, and Z. But when you watch the film, it stands out.
But it's also like the corner who no one's going to throw to, his side.
Right, exactly. How many pass deflections does he have this year? Guy's a bum. Well, it's because they throw him twice a game. What do you want him to do?
Right.
If you don't hear your corner's name, he's really damn good.
That's right. Oregon's had that with number 7 from time to time this year, Jabbar Muhammad. And one of the things that Lanning talks about on that note that he's seen from his young edge rushers, we talk a lot about Tuioti and Mateo and the way that they played. You have to earn the privilege to rush the quarterback. You got to win on first and second down. If you're not winning on first and second down, you're not going to be able to get after the quarterback.
Thank you.
So you get after him on 3rd and long. That's something Oregon can do. And Illinois can do it. Their rush defense, different equation. So I looked for Oregon to try and win on first and second down. Game to watch. To me, it's this one. Top 20 game at Autzen Stadium. Oregon looking to go 8-0 for the first time again since 2013. Let's hear it from Joey Harrington. He joins Isaac and Suk every single Friday. What does he make of this matchup? What do you have to tell the guys yesterday afternoon? That is coming up next. We're live down at a beautiful, sunny Autzen Stadium, getting closer to kickoff on 1080 The Fan.
Did you know each year
55 with rain in the Portland area, 56 and fair in Eugene. The Ducks game day forecast says we might get a break from the rain for a little bit before picking up again this afternoon and continue overnight. High of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen, 68 and partly cloudy, and a good chance of it staying dry throughout the game. We've passed the 2-hour threshold to Autzen from the city center. Some slowing on I-5 as you're leaving the city. Again, as you leave Salem, and then also as you approach and leave Albany. Looks like a couple of Smokies in Salem and another one just before you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
Your home for Oregon Ducks football is KFXX KWJJ HD2 Portland. Touchdown Oregon. 1080 The Fan. An Odyssey Sports Station. Now, let's preview the game with a Ducks legend.
That's very kind of you to say. I would call myself somebody who's been around for a long time and wants to tell some nice stories.
Here with Isaac and Souk on The Fan is Joey Harrington. Brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
So they're number one, and it feels so solid. Like, it doesn't feel like... maybe when Oregon was ranked number one in the past, like 2012 or a couple of years before that. Why do you think that is? Why do we feel, outside of talent, because obviously they're the most talented they've ever been, why do you think this feels so damn solid and they really are trustworthy as they head towards the college football playoff?
Who said I said that?
He just showed you.
Damn it.
Trying to put words.
I don't know that, and
See,
I don't know that that's. I don't. Okay, so and I don't know that it's necessary. It's an indictment on this Oregon team, as much as it is kind of like an observation of the 5, 6, 7 teams up at the top, right? I mean, let's not forget that just a couple of weeks ago we were talking about all the shortcomings of this Oregon football team. Right? Oh my God, they could barely beat Idaho. Oh my God, how'd they squeak away? They're never going to be able to compete with the big boys. Like, and then all of a sudden you win one game, and now they're solidly locked in to the number one spot. I don't necessarily buy that. One, because I think they're one of 5 or 6 really good teams in the country that could all potentially be in that spot, and two, we've seen. When we talk about it every November, like there's no team, with the exception of maybe the 02 Miami team, like that you could look at and say, oh no, they're number one. Like, or some of the, like even the Alabama teams, maybe Georgia a couple of years ago, you could look at them and say, yeah, no, that's a solidly locked in number one team. But like no team is ever locked in anywhere. I don't know. This is a long season. This really is a long season, and the fact that we're going to the Big House and we're going to Camp Randall in November does not, and not for any reason because of Oregon, but simply because of the ridiculous craziness of college football. Both of those games give me a little bit of pause. And I think maybe keep me from feeling, oh, yeah, we're solidly locked in. Like, I don't know that I want to feel that. I always want to feel like you're on edge a little bit because it keeps you sharp, right? It keeps you, or I should say, I hope that nobody in that organization, in that locker room, in the coaches' rooms, feels like they're solidly locked in.
Oh, they don't. Well, I think yeah. I mean, I think that's part of it, is that I just feel like Dan Lanning, there's something about him. Maybe it's just that Georgia pedigree, and he was on that team that they
attention to detail.
Yeah, he just feels much more upset proof. Not that he is fully upset proof, but he just feels like he's got that thing. He pushes the right buttons where they just, man, they're trustworthy right now. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, it's not that they're head and shoulders better than everyone else. It's just, I mean, it's like we're talking about the number 20 team in the country coming in here, and everybody's just like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns. And
yeah, they'll be fine. Yeah. And that's it's an odd feeling. Have a great weekend. We will talk to you next week. Thanks, Joey.
Adios.
All right, Joey Harrington each week here on the show, brought to you by Mods PDX. The future of building is here.
Motorsport Hillsboro is your side-by-side hookup, offering the best of Honda Pioneers, Talons, Kawasaki Mule, TRX, and KRX, and of course, the industry's top side-by-side Can-Am Defenders and Mavericks. We work harder than anybody to get you the price and financing you deserve. We love trade-in, so no excuse to not hit the dunes, dirt, or pasture. Come see us and let us
Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com.
All right, Mike Jorgenson coming up in a moment. Let's get to our clear advantage, a player unit matchup that we like for the Ducks today. Guys, what is the biggest advantage on the board for you for Oregon over Illinois this afternoon?
I sound like a broken record. Dylan Gabriel.
Yep.
But let's add somebody else. Let's talk about the offensive line and how they're playing. You know, you got a pass block, you got a run block. They're doing both well. They're giving time for Dylan to throw the football, and they're creating running lanes for Jordan James. I think in the running game it could be bigger. You know, they could be better.
Yeah.
That's but the ceiling's high, and I think it's going in the right direction. Every game you want to improve, and that's what they're doing. But they're solid.
Yeah.
And they're, to me, from the Idaho game until now, different offensive line.
Night and day.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go, can I just say interior trenches?
Yeah.
Both sides of the football, because I will go from Nishad Strother to Pancho Laulu and Marcus Harper, and then on the other side, Derek Harmon, Jamari Caldwell. That is where Illinois has a weakness. We talked to an Illinois insider behind the enemy lines. They said the interior of the offensive line is a struggle for them. We were talking earlier about their inability to defend the run game.
Yep.
It's the interior trenches on both sides of the football, and it's not your tackles. It's guard to guard. And if Oregon can dominate on both sides of the ball, that aspect, I think Oregon's going to be having a clear advantage right there.
Got a great chance to win if you do that. Pacific Office Automation has your office game plan. Visit them today for a full technology assessment at pacificoffice.com. Pacific Office Automation, problem solved. Let's talk to Mike Jorgenson, the color analyst of the Ducks. He is coming up next. Now it's time for Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com. Here's Jeff Rust.
It is 55 and rainy in the Portland area, 60 and fair in Eugene. The Ducks Game Day forecast says we might get a break from the rain before picking up again this afternoon and continues overnight. High of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen. 68 and partly cloudy. Looks like a good chance of staying dry throughout the game. And we have passed the 2-hour threshold to Autzen from the city center. Some slowing on I-5 as you leave the city, as you leave Salem, and then again north and south of Albany. Looks like maybe just a lone Smoky right before you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Russ with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather every 10 minutes, brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food.
Duck fans, game day is here, and you need fuel to cheer on.
quarterback Mike Jorgensen on the Odyssey app and 1080 The Fan.
All right, welcome back in. Let's talk to Mike Jorgensen, the color analyst of the Oregon Ducks. I'm a little embarrassed to be wearing pants next to him because he's out here toughing it out in his shorts.
The sun's out, guys.
It's chilly down here this morning, man. Yeah,
this is a wind tunnel where we're sitting.
We're in the frozen tundra right here.
Pretty nice day today.
This is Big Ten football, right? It's gorgeous. It is perfect.
Yeah.
Let's look at last week quickly, Jorgen. We'll look ahead to the matchup today. We all know Purdue's not a very good football team. That's a game that Oregon should win. I'm incredibly impressed with the mentality, just the intensity that they brought, coming out right out of the gate, kind of stomping on the throat, saying it's 21-0, you're not coming back and winning this. 5-6 days after that massive win over Ohio State, that showed me a lot about this football team.
Yeah, I mean, that quick start was really needed in a game like that, where you come out and you set the tone and just take the belief out of Purdue right off the bat. I mean, I thought that was really what they needed to do in that game, is just put your foot on their throat and say, boys, we're different than you are. And that's exactly what they did. You know, those first three drives, 21 points, and all of a sudden they kind of went into a little bit of a funk. But one thing that lasted from beginning to end was defense. Yeah. And Purdue sometimes was good between the 30s, but they never really threatened. And when they did get anywhere to threatening, the defense would just shut them down. So I love the way that the defense played. I hope they carry it over this week again, because this seems like a similar type of team with a lot better quarterback, obviously.
Yes.
And the defense is what's going to lead you. But, to step on their throat first quarter, it just set the tone, was a huge key.
You know, Jorgen, this game is all about matchups, and that's what these coaches try to get, good matchups. And the matchup that I want you to talk about, I think it's going to be a good one. The outside receivers of Illinois, Pat Bryant and Franklin, against Oregon's DBs. That's going to be a good matchup. I think Oregon has an edge because the defensive lineman getting home to the quarterback, making the quarterback speed up his process, but still those receivers are really good.
Yeah, I mean, that's what's made Oregon's DBs so good, is what Oregon does up front. 20 sacks, and Illinois, by the way, has 20 sacks too. So it tells you what they could do sometimes. But again, to answer your question, I think one of the things that really has come along is the corner, the opposite side of Muhammad is playing a lot better. Whether it's Nico Reed, whether it was Dante Manning at times last week, all of a sudden those guys have begun to play better. But, or however, I hate to say but all the time. I always like butless conversations, right? However, the opposite side is playing better, and now the safeties are starting to play better. And so you get two receivers that have 60-plus catches. I mean, they're the main guys, 800-plus yards receiving between the two of them. I think you have to count the next 10 receivers that have as many catches as the top two guys do. I mean, they don't throw to anybody else with those guys. So you got to be able to defend them. And Anthony, I think the whole key for the DBs being good, Jabbar Muhammad's already good. I mean, we know that. We saw him last year with Washington. He's been steady throughout the year. It's what they do up front to the run game. It's what Oregon's pass rush does to Altmaier. He doesn't turn it over very much, but what they can do is just going to make those DBs that much better.
Well, let's go to the passing attack on the other side. I mean, one of the things I felt like we were saying about 3 weeks ago is, where's that vertical passing game? When's that going to come along? And then all of a sudden, Ohio State, boom. Last week again, is it something that's clicked? Is it the way their teams are playing them? Because all of a sudden, Gabriel just airing the ball out. Evan Stewart's making plays, averaging 20 yards a catch. It's really exploded the last 2 weeks.
Sometimes you just got to throw it.
Yep.
And I'm not saying throw it when you got zone coverage, because that's a ball where a safety's going to pick a ball off. But if you know you've got one-on-one type of situation, sometimes you just got to throw it to put that in the back of the mind of a defense that we're not afraid to throw deep and we're going to throw deep. I also think it's matchups, frankly. Evan Stewart's a speedster. He's getting more and more confident all the time. Last couple of games, he's been a star in those games. He's been a difference maker in those games because of either the way he started it last week with Purdue or the way he played against Ohio State 2 weeks prior, 2 weeks ago. Big play after big play. That sets the seed in everybody's mind that you got to watch out for that guy. Oh, by the way, you got Tez on the other side too.
Right. So, and here's Dylan Gabriel as a lefty, just dropping it in the bucket against Tyke. I mean, just incredibly accurate down the field. Yeah. One of the other things that's standing out to me that I'm sure you've noticed as well, that I think we're all excited about, the depth on this football team is remarkable. I mean, you lose Birch a couple weeks ago. Here come your sophomore edges playing great. Terrence Ferguson last second. Hey, can't play, by the way. Oh, here's Kenyon Sadiq. I mean, it's just next man up. And then even late in that game, I know we don't want to look too far back, but the way that they upheld, and Anthony brought this up earlier, upheld that standard late in the game of playing at a high level, holding on to that shutout, that's massive, not only just for the team, but just all those guys building that confidence for the rest of the year.
You hate to see it happen, right? Any type of injury to anybody, whether it's a Birch or whether it's a Ferguson or whatever else it might be. But sometimes it's not a bad thing. You find out real quick who those guys are that can step in, make some mistakes right off the bat. For example, when Birch got hurt against Ohio State, all of a sudden you got Amari Washington in there. Well, first couple of plays, he gets collapsed down, couple of big runs by Travion Henderson. Fixed it. Never saw it again. Defense played great, and he just continues to get better and better. He's kind of like a young Harmon because he's quick. They put him in the backfield on offense because he's an athlete.
Exactly.
Now all of a sudden he's penetrating and just creating havoc in the backfield where the linebackers can make plays. So sometimes it's you never want to see those guys get hurt, but man, oh man, when you see the other guys and how they play.
Well, let me ask you this. When's the last time you've seen Oregon have this much depth? Have they ever? I mean, you're talking there's a lot of guys out there. There's a lot of guys who can play at a high level.
Just scratching the surface, man.
Yes. I mean, it's, again, we're talking about, Kenyon Sadiq. To me, this kid's going to be a superstar.
Yeah.
And he's really right now he's used a little bit here and there.
Yeah.
But just to watch his technique, his fundamentals, the way he runs, like, wait, who is this guy?
Right, yeah. And he blocks, by the way, too.
Yes,
that's the other thing about it. And a lot like Tatum Tuioti on the defensive side of the ball, he's changed his body.
Yes,
so he's
he
always
has.
been a great athlete. There's no doubt about that coming out of high school. He was kind of that H-back mismatch you thought you were going to see. But now all of a sudden you got a 240-pound guy who can run like that and can block. It's a matchup nightmare, whoever has him, whether it's a safety or a linebacker.
Right.
Especially if you got a linebacker, game over.
It's over. Yeah, it's over.
It was nice to see him just be functioning in a normal offense too a little bit, because it felt like at times when they tried to use him this year, it's a lot of let's run a little reverse to him, a little shovel pass. It's just not. And here he is, just all right. Line him outside, let him go win a one-on-one matchup and make some guys miss down the field
and play a complete game.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Looking at this matchup today, Jorgie, we know Illinois is a team well coached, physical up front. They don't do a lot of things to beat themselves. What's standing out to you that when you're kind of looking at the numbers and the matchups that you like or don't like or maybe are a concern today?
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that about the numbers. I look at the numbers, it's like there's nothing special there. There's nothing that jumps out about Illinois other than just sound, fundamental, complementary football.
That's right.
Defense plays hard, stiff. Offense plays hard, doesn't get a ton of yards, but they're very efficient what they do. They don't turn it over. They're +7 in the turnover takeaway margin. One interception that Altmaier's throwing. He's a good athlete that goes with it. They just do those things that if it's a close game, those are the type of things that can frustrate you as the game goes on if it's a one-score game, because they'll possess it. They'll figure out a way to go 3rd and 7 or first and 10, 2nd and 7, 3rd and 3. Oh, by the way, make another first down. Here the clock keeps ticking as they move downfield. So, today Oregon's got to get a quick lead if they can. If you can make Illinois chase, I think Illinois is in
make
trouble.
them one-dimensional, especially late in that game. Tee off with those pass rushers. Beautiful day for football.
Oh, it's great.
Oh,
it's great.
It's unreal.
Gosh.
It's unreal.
It just smells like October, doesn't it? Late October,
sun
shining.
Perfect
The
day.
26th October?
Woo, buddy.
Are you kidding
I love
me?
it. Jorgie, we always enjoy it. Have a great call, my man.
Thanks,
We'll
guys.
chat again next week, okay?
Okay, all right.
There you go.
soon.
Mike
We'll
Jorgenson,
see ya.
color analyst for the Oregon Ducks. What's at stake? That's coming up next. We're getting close to being done here live down at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
This is an important notice to all
Portland area, 61 and fair in Eugene. Ducks game day forecast says we could get a break from the rain before it picks up again later this afternoon and continues overnight. A high of 66 for the 12:30 kick at Autzen. 68 and partly cloudy. Looks like a good chance of staying dry throughout the game. Just a shade over 2 hours now to Autzen from the city center. Got some slowing on I-5 as you're leaving the city, as you leave Salem and north and south of Albany. Looks like a smoky just before you cross the McKenzie River heading into Eugene. I'm Jeff Rust with Ducks Game Day traffic and weather. Every 10 minutes brought to you by Victor Rico's Mexican Food. Order Victor Rico's Mexican Food for your game day celebration in-store or online for pickup or delivery at victorricos.com.
It's time to sharpen the knives and make some picks.
How do you feel about this weekend? Do you rent that yacht? No, I own it. That's how I feel about this weekend.
It's time for What's at Stake as the Ducks Game Day hosts look at the most impactful games in college football. Brought to you by Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com.
Hey, What's at Stake is brought to you by Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today at laurelhurstmarket.com. Don't forget, later on this afternoon, evening, to listen to the Pacific Office Automation postgame scoreboard show. Your chance to hear the Game Day secret score and win a $100 Laurelhurst Market gift card, which Sprague and I will give away in the 7 a.m. hour on Monday. So don't forget to listen, and if you're driving home, and to keep an eye on that. Quick score update, by the way. Ohio State's got a 14-3 lead over Nebraska. Ole Miss is up on Oklahoma 10-7, and Indiana is driving. That game is 14-7. Indiana with a touchdown lead, and they got a chance to extend that early on. So a couple of quick score updates for you. Anthony, what's at stake, man? I mean, we talked about it last week. Oregon hadn't gone off to a 7-0 start since 2013. Yep. It was also the last time that they were 8-0. They had not been ranked number one in the country since 2012.
Yeah.
And I think it's another, we talked about this going into last week of the mentality of the team coming off a big win, bringing the energy and intensity. They clearly did that. Well, now they've been getting text messages all week. Hey, you're number one. Hey, you're number one. Congrats on being number one. Blocking out the noise. It's another challenge to do it again this week.
And Dan Lanning said, who cares?
Yeah, that's right.
Right? Is that what he said? Who cares? But I think these players are talking about, okay, what's important, what's at stake is we need to win.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
Doesn't matter how it looks, just get a win.
I don't care who we're playing against. Yep. I don't care where we're playing. Dan Lanning said it. He said just throw some turf, out in the backyard. We're going to play some football right there, and we're going to do what we need to do. And I think the kids understand that. And, again, they buy into what Dan Lanning's saying. So it's not about Illinois. It's about Oregon. Who Oregon is playing, they're playing themselves. Don't beat yourself. Illinois is the team that's going to be able to play. They're going to do some good things. Yeah. But they really can't hang. They don't have enough dudes, and I don't think they're going to be used to the speed of Oregon. That's what's going to shock them a little bit.
We'll see how it all plays out. Getting closer. Our final thoughts and picks on the game coming up just around the corner. And our final segment, again, What's at Stake, brought to you by Laurelhurst Market, more than just your friendly neighborhood steakhouse. Make your reservation today, laurelhurstmarket.com. Line to watch. Our final segment. We'll wrap it up next down here at Autzen Stadium on 1080 The Fan.
Bellagio's Pizza.
Coming left, Herbert's got it. He's got blockers. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Ducks!
It's time for the Line to Watch, where our Ducks Game Day hosts responsibly look at the number on select college matchups and predict the score of today's Ducks game. Don't worry, we'll check their work after the game on the post-game scoreboard show. The Line to Watch is brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling prevention and treatment resources, visit opgr.org.
All right, our final segment here before we send you up into the booth. And Jerry, Jorgie, Dusty, Joey Mack, the guys will take you all the way until kickoff, coming up 12:30 right here on The Fan. It is a picture-perfect day. I know for a lot of folks back in Portland listening, I guess it's pouring down rain up in Portland today. So it is beautiful this afternoon. It's going to be a great day for football down here. And before we get to our thoughts on and picks and final score thoughts here, I did want to mention something because you talked about it earlier, Anthony. Dylan Gabriel's playing great football. He's getting a lot of help up front. They're doing a great job protecting him. I feel like in my years of watching football and playing football, offensive line issues are not usually something that if it's a problem, all of a sudden just gets fixed like that. And I think it's a remarkable job that the offensive coaching staff has done. The communication's gotten better to see how they have grown. Yeah, they shuffled the lineup and kind of found their right combos, but the job that staff has done to get those guys where they were in week 1 and week 2 to where they are now, it's a remarkable job, and they deserve a major pat on the back.
Well, you're right, but I don't think it was a talent problem. They have talent.
Yep.
I think it was, schemes, understanding the responsibility, and working together. Communication. They were new. So it takes time for that to gel. And you can do it in practice. You can, we're going against our defense, or we're going against the scout team. But when game starts, it's a different situation.
Yeah.
And then, you're going against Idaho. Okay. Well, next thing you know, Idaho's bringing the house. You're like, what's going on? Then Boise State, good football team. It just takes time for an offensive line to gel. Once they start gelling, and the talent is there, wow.
Been a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
They're helping out their quarterback a ton. The line is 22.5, I believe, on this game. What do we think? How are we feeling about today's matchup?
Yeah, I think it's going to be
full steam ahead.
Yeah, full steam ahead. Illinois is not fast enough. There's too many dudes on Oregon. There's so much depth on Oregon. It's going to be – people might get nervous. First quarter, get 0-0. Could be. I don't know.
They can shorten the game.
But there's 4 quarters of football that need to be played, and Oregon will come to play all 4.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I'll go 38-24. That's my score prediction today, 38-24. The Line to Watch brought to you by Multnomah County Behavioral Health Division. Don't let the game play you. For more information on problem gambling, prevention, and treatment resources, visit opgr.org. That'll do it for us, folks. Beautiful, beautiful day down at Autzen Stadium. Have fun watching the football all day. Enjoy this one. We'll be back again next weekend at the same time for Oregon at Michigan. We'll send you up to the booth here in a moment. As always, go Ducks.
Oregon Ducks football on 1080 The Fan is brought to you by Coors Light.